March 21st, 2025 meeting to order. Welcome guests joining via YouTube. For those joining via YouTube, today's agenda can be viewed via the ITS webpage at www.its.ms.gov by clicking About, then Board Meetings, and then Agenda. If you are attending via live stream, please send an email to meetingminutes@its.ms.gov with your name and the entity you represent for the meeting minutes to reflect your attendance. And we will welcome any guest in person. If you are a guest attending today, will you please stand and introduce yourselves?
Bethany Stanfield, BSS Global.
Sharon McElwain from UMMC.
Lisa Vaughn, UMMC.
Chris Keller, Next Step Innovation.
Sarah Conwell, UMC.
Arthur Goss, MDE.
Who are you with?
MDE.
Judy Nelson, MD, Mississippi Department of Education.
Mark Allen, Human Services.
Denisha Hobson, Human Services.
Jackie Sorrell, Human Services.
Cameron Foster, Human Services.
Chase Calloway, Human Services.
Okay, let's continue to snake back this way. So,
Let's try to get us back in order here. Rob McClure, AT&T.
all right. Okay. Yep.
Jason Pardo, Ole Miss.
I'm Michelle Patton with Ole Miss.
Kristen Hinton with Cisco.
Jordan Norrell with Cisco.
Jeremy Hurley, Department of Medicaid.
Ryan Aldridge, UI.
Brendan Donjay, Tech Systems.
Jerica Jackson, Mississippi Department of Education.
All right, thank you and welcome. Okay, agenda item number 1 is approval of the July 17th, 2025 minutes. I assume my fellow board members have had an opportunity to review those. Is that a motion, Mark?
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Thank you, Mark. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Keith. All in favor say aye. Aye. All right, the minutes are approved. We'll move on to agenda item number 2. We have Danetta Durr and Sharon McElwain presenting on behalf of UMMC.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Agenda item number 2 is a recommendation for project 49079 to request approval for an increase to the original exemption request for NCLEX assessment package and software for the University of Mississippi Medical Center. The exemption procedure allows agencies and institutions to request exemption from ITS to handle specific information technology procurement projects that by law require solicitation of bids or proposals without the involvement of ITS. The exemption procedure is designed for projects involving traditional information technology equipment, software, or services, which the agency and/or institution has the in-house resources and expertise to procure. For exempted acquisitions, the purchasing agency or institution is responsible for making the purchase within a dollar amount authorized by ITS on the CP1 acquisition approval form, and for following all applicable statutory requirements throughout the procurement process, including but not limited to those outlined in Title 25, Chapter 53 of the Mississippi Code. In January of 2020, UMMC requested ITS approval for an exemption to request proposals for an NCLEX assessment package and electronic health record software. In 2021, UMMC School of Nursing issued RFP number 1274 and awarded the contract to ATI, testing for a 5-year period at a cost of $932,500. UMMC now needs to add an additional nursing cohort and make accommodations of increased student enrollment. The UMC School of Nursing utilizes the services of ATI testing in a wide range of initiatives. These include, but are not limited to, student services for student teaching tools, RN video case studies for nursing students, critical thinking assessments, which include entrance and exit exams, and comprehensive live NCLEX review. The staff of UMMC recommends approval of this $2 million, $74,820 increase to the original exemption request of $932,500 for a revised total not to exceed the estimated 7-year life cycle cost of $3,012,320. With me today to answer any questions you may have is Sharon McElwain, and she is the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs for UMMC School of Nursing.
Thank you. Comments or questions from the board? One from Mark. Keith?
So it may be in here, but I didn't read it, is how much or what percentage are you increasing the numbers by? The nursing students or the
Package or the nursing students?
number of students.
The number of students, so our enrollment for each, it is, so we're having for, it'll be, let me see what the total is. I gotta see what we had the first time. So our original, we had 70 students in one of our packages just for a year. And so usually, do y'all know what the numbers were on our students in the first package that we had? Because we're adding over 200 students to our package.
So are you going from 70 to 200?
No, we went, I'm trying to see what our package was before. Do you know what our,
The original cohort was probably around maybe 150 per year.
The reason I ask the question is because when I look at the math on the numbers, you got, what did you got today, you got for 5 years for less than $1 million.
right?
And what you're getting 3 years now is more than $2 million.
Yeah.
So what is the,
And I can answer that question in a different way
Sure,
than
that's
how you asked. That's probably the better way for me to answer that one. So it was the total number of what the package that we got has increased. So in the original package or contract that we had, we were paying $765 per student. And now with the increase in our contract, because of products that we've added to the package and just increase in ATI cost, will be $1,500 per student for the package for our accelerated students. And then traditional students that we have, that's a 2-year program, their cost is up to $1,951.
and those are changes that you're making now or you've already made?
No, that's changes that we're proposing in our new contract. So each of the packages are gonna go up in price per student.
It was just a pretty big, significant
It's a
increase.
significant
Yeah.
jump. We've added a couple of products to the package, as well as there's been about a $300 increase in our basic package, and then what we've added to that, to the package for the students. Yeah.
So how many, you're adding one cohort, how many cohorts do you have now? Do you know?
We have 4.
4, okay, so this will be a 5th one.
Yeah.
I don't have any other questions. Madam Chairman?
Nothing to do with tariffs.
Okay.
I move approval.
Okay, good. Good. That's an easy one. Yeah. No.
Motion from Tom to approve. Do I have a second?
And Mark seconded it.
Thank you, Mark. Second from Mark. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, next, agenda item number 3, we have Jake Alexander and Jason Pardo, Network Manager, presenting project number 49142 on behalf of the University of Mississippi. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Agenda item number 3 is for project number 49142, requesting approval of an exemption for the University of Mississippi Office of Information Technology to request proposals for the acquisition of a data center network and core infrastructure refresh. The university's current data center network infrastructure relies on outdated switches and routers that are either approaching end of life or are already outpaced by current and future performance needs. Additionally, a new section of a data center space is being built to replace the legacy area. The staff of ITS and jointly recommend approval of the exemption request at a total estimated 5-year life cycle cost of $2 million. Will solicit proposals in accordance with all statutory requirements for such acquisitions. With me today, we have Jason Pardo, Network Manager, as well as Michelle Patton, Interim CIO and Director of Telecommunications, to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Yes, I do have a couple questions. So, I understand you got to replace all your core switches and network switches, and that's pretty much every so many year, 5-year deal or whatever. I understand that. But your data center, you're building a new or adding on or changing part of your data center. That's a construction project that's not a part of this.
That is correct.
Is that something you already started doing?
Yes, it started almost over a year ago, and expected completions the end of the year to the beginning of next year.
Just curiosity, I was wondering if we couldn't use the state data center here for some of that, for hosting some of that technology versus building out another data center or more data center space. Was that even considered or thought about?
We do some co-location with Southern for some backups, but as far as any of our servers and all, I don't know of any other discussions within IT to move them to a data center also.
Something to consider in the future, though. I mean, instead of building extra, expensive data center space, because it's not cheap. And I think we've got some available still left, don't we, Craig?
We do. So the co-location part of the data center, the second floor, where all of UMMC's Epic implementation is.
Right.
So the power there is fully redundant. So it's a tier 3+ facility. So we would be happy to do that. The other thing that's interesting is in the billing change that ITS went through, that cost of the data center is absorbed in the ITS hub budget. So in essence, there's really no charge for co-location and network redundancy services in the tier 3+ data center. So if those conversations need to happen, I'm more than happy to do it.
I would suggest or recommend at least having those conversations. That looks like a potential savings there to me.
Certainly. I did not know that was available, and I'll take that back to the others.
Thank you.
And I would also welcome a trip to Oxford because Ajax's is delicious to eat. If you need to do that, I'd be willing to do that.
We're there every day.
I have no other questions.
Any other questions or comments?
No question.
All right, do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion from Tom, second from Keith. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, it is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next is agenda item number 4, and we have Rashonda Grindle, Jacob Black, Deputy Administrator, Business Operations, and Jeremy Hurley, Chief Information Officer, presenting on behalf of the Mississippi Division of Medicaid.
Good morning. Agenda item number 4 is for project number 49143, requesting approval for an increase to the initial exemption request for the Medicaid clinical data infrastructure for the Division of Medicaid, DOM. In 2008, DOM received ITS board approval of an exemption to issue RFP number 2009-0121 for an e-health records and e-prescribing solution. Since then, the ITS board has approved increases to the exemption through September 30, 2025. DOM desires to extend the contract for an additional year through September 30, 2026 to allow DOM to remain within the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services compliances while continuing to provide operations and maintenance on the existing system. DOM has procured a replacement solution, but it is not yet operational. Approval of this exemption increase will allow adequate time for the implementation and decommission of the meta-analytics platform. The staffs of ITS and DOM jointly recommends approval of this $6 million increase to the original exemption request for a revised, not to exceed, total estimated 17-year life cycle cost of $91,936,824.48. With me today to answer any questions you may have is Jeremy Hurley, Chief Information Officer.
Thank you.
I do apologize, and I noticed at the last minute, the pricing is actually on this different. This comes in at $6 million. The actual price is $5.8 million, so we'll need to update that on our end. It came in at 6.2, and Jacob and I were able to talk to MediAnalytics. That was due to like a 3% inflation yearly cost. We were able to talk them off that, and so correctly it would be we were able to talk them down from 6.2 to 5.8. I just wanted to make that correction before we got going.
Good. Madam Chairman, I got a couple questions.
Sure.
Jeremy, hello, welcome. I'm very familiar with this project. I go way back, probably 20 plus years with this whole process of this integration. Now I know we've approved a replacement system, and you got to have this until you get there. I understand that. And that's a huge change. I know the project's going to be massive, but help me remember what we approved before. What are some of the major points that are different from this, and what are better integration into other EHRs? I mean, what's there that you don't have today, Jeremy?
Sure. So we have been on a 1-year pilot. I believe we came to board it's maybe 2 boards ago for a product called Progress MarkLogic. We have worked with them really closely over the last several months. They are essentially our data warehouse. We're calling it an operational data store. There's multiple names for that. They are able, what we are doing, we have been working to transfer the data from MediAnalytics. That would be claims data. That should be done by the end of this year, this calendar year. The next phase will be the clinical data that we get from the major hospitals that we have in CCDA format. We'll transfer that from MediAnalytics over to Progress MarkLogic as well. The cost savings comes into the data will be there. We already own Microsoft Power BI. We are already in talks to plug that into Progress MarkLogic and use as far as an analytics tool to do a large cost savings on this. So the overall strategy for that data store is to serve as the conduit between the CCOs, the major hospitals. That would be a give and take, an ebb and flow of data that comes from them. We can also offer that back to the providers. That also helps us meet our FHIR APIs that CMS is mandating us to meet for provider access, for patient access, and as well as prior authorization rules coming in 27.
So that standardizes that a whole lot more than what we got today.
Correct. It's more of a multifunction tool to use MarkLogic than just have a kind of a one shop.
So you probably have more takers of utilizing that than you got today. I would think. Everybody would want to do that because it'd make their life a lot easier as well.
Correct.
Okay. Good deal. I have no question. In fact, I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay.
Discussion? Madam Chair, I have a couple of questions.
Okay, please.
But you're welcome to recognize the motion in the second, if you need to. Jerry, I have made my displeasure on these kinds of things very, very clear historically, which is that, we're asked to approve something at the very last minute where, right, the whole world comes crashing down around us if we don't approve it in a grand total of, whatever it is, 30 days, right? So why is the replacement system that we've already approved, why is it not up and running?
I think the main part of that, and that is a good question. There's a lot of pieces and moving parts to this, and I think a lot of it has just been some challenges with purchasing as well as getting some resources in to help us with that. So I agree and I understand your question.
It warrants some discussion. We're going to spend an extra $6 million. We are effectively paying for the same service twice. And I mean, this to me just looks like we have mismanaged the transition process.
I understand.
I mean, it help me understand how I'm wrong in that, right?
I'm trying to think of the best way to answer this. I really, honestly, I don't know a good way to answer that for you, and I apologize.
So, and I mean, at some point, right, it became clear that we were not going to make the schedule.
Yes.
And I don't know when ITS received this. I mean, Craig, that might be a separate question altogether. But, you know, I mean, did we not appreciate and realize that this was going to happen? I mean, this is the board meeting before this crash has emerged, right?
Yes.
And I mean, I'm just looking at the numbers and going, we paid, you know, call it $85 million for 16 years, and we're going to pay $6 million for 1 year.
Yes.
Which reeks to me of a vendor who goes, I have you over a barrel. I didn't get selected for the follow-on work, and I've got an opportunity here to extort money out of the state of Mississippi. I mean, that's what it appears to be to me.
Do you have a timeline for, and with milestones to get it implemented in the next year? And is there any opportunity to shorten that to 6 months?
We do have a timeline. The claims data should be done by the end of the year with a start of clinical data in January. And so our idea is to be done within the next year with this.
Okay.
And yes, I can personally look into shortening the timeline as well.
Yeah, if we could renegotiate that and look at maybe a 6-month implementation, that might help my feelings and Mark's. And if you could please let ITS know, even the board know, if you see that you're falling behind.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. I have a motion and a second. Anything else, Mark?
I mean, make sure I understand the implications of what I'm about to do. So, what happens when the MCI function no longer functions?
Well, when this particular function doesn't function with Medi, well, the idea is we're going through this so we don't lose functionality. This product that we have, MarkLogic, will replace the data feed part of this, which is actually an important part to get this information back to hospitals. So we don't want to decrease functionality whatsoever.
I mean, I hear you, but I still don't understand. So let's suppose that this motion does not carry. What happens?
Well, if we were to lose functionality from this contract, we still have to keep going from a CMS standpoint as well as providing this data. So it probably would not be good if this did not approve, probably on multiple layers.
Mark, I think you're bringing up some really good points that I really didn't catch. I'd just add, Jerry, how long is this project? When did we approve this before? And how long has it been that you've been making this transition?
We've been in this year, trying to make this progress and trying to make all these transitions.
Was there a reasonable thought that you could make that transition in that period of time? I mean, I know this project. I know what this project is.
Yeah, I think there was. I think there was intention of doing that. Part of that was to come back to board I think it was 2 or 3 ago, to approve the 4-year extension on MarkLogic, as well as to gain more resources out of them. We had, in that first scoping of that project, we had limited resources from that vendor. So this 4-year extension also gave us more resources with them to help move faster on some of this.
Do we have any really decent options for doing something a little different to save some money here? Do we really have an option?
I think to Jeremy's point of, looking at those timelines and, to the point that he made about attempting to compress those for savings, I think is a legitimate thing to look at. One of the things that he makes a point of and Mark made a point of is, ITS is privy to these transitions, and these transitions can be challenging, there's no doubt about it. I mean, we're working with a couple of other state agencies now on similar large-scale transitions, and so it's a tricky piece of business to get there. But ITS stands ready to help Jeremy in whatever he needs.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with this kind of a transition, and I would say that was probably, trying to be nice about it, probably over-optimistic that you could probably do all this, unless you had an army of resources at your disposal to throw at it, which it sounds like you didn't have. So I don't know where the breakdown in that is, but here we are. And Mark brings up a good point, Mark. I appreciate your point. I think, though, what we have here is you're required by CMS to provide certain amounts of this data to them, so you have to have something in place. But we've acknowledged it.
I mean, I look at it and go, the board is basically, held at gunpoint here. I don't know that there is much option here that does not, significantly impact the Department of Medicaid's ability to actually perform their mission. I don't like being held at gunpoint. And I think that's inappropriate on a variety of levels. And, it seems like, if there were problems, they should have been identified earlier. And being left, effectively no time in order to make a decision or have any real impact on what's going on is problematic for me.
I agree.
I know you couldn't.
We have a motion and a second. I have no further discussion.
I have, Madam Chairman, unless you have something.
Please go ahead.
When you say you really don't know how to answer that question, what that tells me, having heard that through a 40-year career from the witness stand, is that you don't want to. You know the answer and you don't want to provide us with that answer here in this meeting. I would suggest that you get with our staff and you provide that information, because I think that when you do, we will discover a significant part of the problem and maybe can avoid it in the future.
And if it's out of your control, but within the control of the vendor we're paying all this money to, that's something we need to look at.
Sure.
We don't want to incent them to continue this.
Sure.
Okay, no further questions or comments? All right, I have a motion and a second.
Well, let me ask this. Do we want to reword our motion? I'll tell you what, I'm going to take my motion back
Okay,
and ask, do we want to reword this motion?
Do you want to reword it?
No.
I don't think we can depend on Mark to reword the motion.
Not today.
So
Thank you.
I will move approval, subject to you providing the information that I just suggested be provided, because I think whether it's the vendor or whether it's someone at the Department of Medicaid, somebody somewhere has contributed to a large extent to where we are today, and I want to know who it was, and I want there to be consequences so it won't happen again. That's my motion.
I will second that motion.
okay. I have a motion and a second with some contingencies, which Craig's aware of, okay? All in favor of the amended motion, say aye. Aye. All right, the amended motion carries. Thank you.
Do I have to follow that?
Yes.
We as a board would like to get an update on that, please.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move to number number 5, come on up. For agenda item number 5, we have Danetta Durr, Mark Allen, Chief Information Officer, and Denisha Hobson, Counsel for Economic Programs Workforce Development, presenting on behalf of the Mississippi Department of Human Services. Welcome.
All right, good morning again. Agenda item number 5 is the recommendation for project 49146-3884. This is for the continuation and increase to the agreement with Conduent State and Local Solutions for electronic benefit transfer program services for the Mississippi Department of Human Services. In 2002, MDHS implemented the first generation statewide EBT program for the delivery of benefits for the Supplemental Nutrition Program, SNAP, and temporary assistance for needy families, TANF. Additional services such as TANF supportive services, child support enforcement, and unemployment insurance were added to the EBT program after implementation. MDHS implemented the second generation EBT program in 2011 to continue to meet federal and state requirements. The existing contract with Conduent State and Local Solutions is the result of the third generation EBT program based on RFP number 3884 that was awarded in 2017. The contract expires February 1st, 2026, and MDHS wishes to renew the contract for 2 years. The primary goal of this project is to continue to provide public assistance, benefits, and services to the citizens of the state. The staffs of ITS and MDHS jointly recommend approval of the continuation of and increase to the agreement with Conduent State and Local Solutions through February 1st, 2028, in an amount not to exceed $2,060,213.76 for electronic benefit transfer program services. With this continuation, the revised total not to exceed the 10-year life cycle cost of this project is $31,012,686.70. With me today to answer any questions you all may have are Mark Allen, Chief Information Officer, and Denisha Hobson. She is the Division Counsel of Economic Programs.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mark?
I would like to point out in a couple of ways how this is very different than the preceding agenda item. This one's one doesn't expire for 4 or 5 months now. I mean, the department is well ahead of this. It was already a contract that was a 10-year life cycle contract, and this is only the 7th year. This is the way it should be done, not what we just witnessed. So I want to put Mark at ease a little bit here. Mark, good to see you again, but this is a very different thing that we're looking at. No further comments.
Really good spot in the agenda, Mark. Yeah, I agree with Mark. This is the way it should be done, and I will make a motion to approve.
Then I'll
Paul
second.
moves, Keith seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
And
All
Mark,
right,
just to let you
moving
know,
on to numbers. I'm sorry.
I will tell Mark, just to let him know, we're already working on the RFP for 2 years, so we're ahead of the game on that one.
There you go.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate your service.
All right, no stranger Danetta Durr is going to hang around for one more presentation. Agenda item number 6, and Jerica Jackson, Procurement Supervisor, presenting on behalf of the Mississippi Department of Education. Is Jerica here?
Okay, let me make that correction. She wasn't listed as a presenter, and so my presenters are Arthur Gauss and Judy K. Nelson, and so they're here. And so she wasn't listed as a presenter,
Okay, so
but they are here. So,
the other two, please come forward. And if you will, please state your names for the record.
Judy Nelson, Executive Director for the Office of Federal Programs at the Mississippi Department of Education. Arthur Goss, Program Specialist, Mississippi Department of Education.
Okay, thank you and welcome.
Agenda item number 6 is the recommendation for project 48939 to request the approval for the sole source acquisition of a compliance and communication center software from Transact Communications LLC for the Mississippi Department of Education. The Mississippi Department of Education, as the state education agency, seeks to provide access to high-quality complaint paper notification and translation services for its local education agencies through a partnership with Transact Communications LLC. Transact Parent Notices is a secure web-based platform that allows school districts and state education agencies to easily assess and send federally compliant parent notifications in multiple languages. This statewide service supports MDE's mission to ensure all students have access to a high-quality education by fostering inclusive communication between schools and families, which is foundational to student success and family engagement. Mississippi public purchasing law specifies that non-competitive items available from one source only be exempted from bid requirements. ITS statute in section 25-53-5 permits ITS to utilize provisions in public purchasing law or regulations when applicable. Per public purchasing law, acquisitions must meet certain criteria to be authorized as a sole source. The vendor's correspondence regarding the criterion for this project is included as Attachment B. On August 12, 2025, ITS advertised the notice of intent to certify sole source 4700 for MDE for Compliance and Communication Center software subscription from Transact Communications LLC. No objections were received from interested parties. Therefore, ITS is certifying the request as a sole source pending ITS board approval. The staffs of ITS and MDE jointly recommend Transact Communications LLC as the sole source provider of a compliance and communication center software at a total 3-year life cycle cost of $428,533. With the approval of the sole source request, the total 11 years life cycle cost of this contract is $1,440,390. With me today to answer any questions you may have are Judy K. Nelson. She's the Executive Director of Office of Federal Programs, and Arthur Goss, and he's the Program Specialist.
Okay, thank you all. Any questions or comments from the board?
Where was the question with regard to sole source? Where was that advertised?
Where did we advertise it?
Yeah, where is it
Clarion
advertised? You have to advertise that you're considering this as a sole source acquisition, where on August 12th, it was advertised somewhere.
Clarion Ledger, State Accounting System Magic, and on our website.
Okay. And how, just out of curiosity, how long do we keep that open before we?
We advertise it on 2 consecutive weeks, 2 consecutive Tuesdays,
So the deadline for a competitor to say, we've got the same thing, was
10 business days, roughly, usually.
so yesterday?
From the first time we publish until we close, there's 10 business days.
And the first time it was published was August 12th?
Yes.
So yesterday?
Yes.
And, okay, I just wanted to be clear. Well, and part of that is answered in your reasons for rejecting alternative solutions. So those would have been the likely companies to have responded if they could have matched this. Is that right?
What's your question?
All right. Well, so we figure that the people who would have possibly responded to the advertisement would have included Remind, Class Dojo, and Blooms, and they didn't. They didn't respond. So they don't have a product that would match the capability of this project. Is that right?
If they didn't object, then that's what that means.
Yeah, they didn't respond. No one else responded, including these likely respondents, is that what I'm trying to understand and make sure I understand.
Right, nobody came and said that we also offer this product, like none of those.
Do the other platforms, the auto translation tools like Google, does that meet the federal requirement? No.
No, ma'am.
All right, any other questions or comments?
Madam Chair?
Mark?
Craig, I think this is a question directed at ITS. Could we get, when we see these, that are sole source like this, as part of, kind of to Tom's point, could we get, as part of the package, included the advertisement that was released?
Certainly.
I have a similar question to Tom's, right? And everybody knows that I'm not a big fan of sole source because it's hard for me to imagine that other people don't do this. And have we effectively already made a decision that this company is they've met the technical requirements and that they're the only people who provide their product? Or is it that we've opened this up and said, hey, look, this is the capability that we're actually interested in, and we're trying to figure out the best way to achieve that? So I think that's easily handled by just having that document.
Yes, we'd be happy to do that. A couple of quick comments. So the sole source process is encapsulated in our procurement handbook, number one, which we can sort of share with the board. The procurement handbook is getting a stem to stern overhaul, and as are many processes at ITS being looked at protest policy as another example, the sole source process is being looked at as well. So I think we can do both of the things you asked, which is looking at what needs to be included in the board packet for clarity, and we can also give the board information about the process which is consistently applied when we bring these to you.
Thank you, sir. No further questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mark.
Do we know if there are any, just curious, do we know if there are any other vendors out there that can provide this level of service? Do we know if there is any, or do we know there's not any?
So there is research conducted on the front end, right? So this isn't, the advertisement process comes at the end of what I would consider to be an extensive amount of searching to even do that.
Yeah,
right? And if it is obvious that it isn't, then we would never get to that step, right? So part of the process that the team is looking at and the procurement modernization effort that we're doing is that the right process? How do we go about doing it? It can be incredibly time intensive. What's interesting is of the different procurement types that exist, right? This exists, and it exists in the other 49 states as well. So when we go out and talk to other entities, a version of what's called sole source exists. So it's not an uncommon approach to a particular procurement. I think it is the popping the hood and the how do you get there, right? How do you make that happen, and how do you get there, and how do you do the appropriate amount of due diligence? One of the conversations, I know that I've been privy to, not to get over my skis with it, is the advertisement, right? In other words, potentially looking at with the evolution of media, the evolution of newspapers, looking at sort of different ways to advertise so that you're casting a larger net.
What I was thinking is we've gone past the newspaper clipping stuff, haven't we?
I represent newspapers.
You can see, Mr. Van Camp, why I treaded lightly on that because of it. But those processes are being looked at. So I think to Mark's point, we can both provide a deeper dive in the board packet, and I think also we'll take a note to kind of just give you a bigger picture view of what this process looks like that we apply to get it in front of you.
Because anytime we got competition in these, we end up coming out better in the end. I mean, usually. And so that's always an advantage to us. So I'd say whatever we can do to invoke as much competition in these procurements we can would be helpful.
I think there's a misnomer sometimes that one particular path is quicker or better than others. I think what you're seeing in these procurement instruments and vehicles are they're more cooperative type vehicles, right? That has been a trend across the states for many years. Number one. Two, the amount of latitude or the relationship between ITS and agencies is changing. It's changing in other states, and it'll change here, where the limits are going to be such that agencies have more latitude in conjunction with ITS to get to solutions, the right solution quicker, which is something we're focused on. But I think a version of this as a procurement type is going to continue. It's in the other states. Now, there is an apples to apples challenge in other states of how those states make those definitions, right? So as an example, what's the definition of a competitive procurement? What's a planned procurement? What's a sole source as a procurement type? There'll be some differentiation in those definitions, but all other states have it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, and I appreciate that. Do we know if this vendor or solution is being utilized in other states? It is?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And my questions and comments were not meant to be critical, but since this is a public meeting and it's also out on YouTube, to be transparent as much as we can be with regard to this sole source. I'm like Mark. It's sort of a tricky area. When I worked for the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee back in another era, the federal government also has kick-out provisions for sole source. And it was, without a doubt, abused. When we had hearings that showed that. And when we tried to amend the statute, they had better lobbyists, and so it didn't get amended. So I am always concerned that while sometimes it is sole source, that we talk about, I guess, in a little bit more detail what we did. It wasn't just, hey, is there anybody else out there that's got something just as good as this, and we just ran an advertisement for 10 days and nobody responded. Well, that's not all that happened. A lot of work, and I saw that in the board packet, but I want to make sure that at least some of that gets conveyed to the public as well, that this wasn't just, we'll check and see if there's somebody else, and we really want these guys. That's not the way it works. The agency identifies a product, and then the agency, together with ITS, takes a hard look and says, is there something just as good, maybe even just as good and cheaper? And then you go ahead and you dot the I and you cross the T and you come to the board and we say, amen. With that being said, I move approval.
Tom? Keith has a second? Mark second? Mark second?
Yep.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right, it carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, agenda item number 7, acknowledgement of the information confidentiality officer report. Holly, will I read that or just reference it, or, okay?
Your statement acknowledging.
Okay, I think we acknowledged that, so by acknowledged, and it doesn't require a vote, just an acknowledgement, okay? All right, Number 8, a report by Executive Director of Director Approval Summary of Equipment, Software, and Services Exemptions and Sole Source Procurement approved. So do I need to seek approval of that, or just?
You just hand it over to that guy.
Okay. So hand it over.
Baton received. So thank you so much, and give the board an update. Of course, a quick shout out to Danetta for carrying 50% of the agenda today for good job. So a couple of updates. It's really been a busy summer, and I wanted to kind of keep the board plugged in on some of these. The vast majority of this list is part of our top 5 strategic initiatives that we're focused on, and that the legislature has given us direction on. So I think a version of a topic that you've asked questions about here, our Procurement Modernization Advisory Council continues to meet monthly. The 30 largest agencies in government are part of that advisory council, and that cohort of agencies represents about 98.5% of the total spend in Mississippi. I think it's worth repeating, especially that we're all here and not staring at our screens live and in person, that ITS hasn't embarked on anything like this before. So we're sitting down in a room with our vendor partner, who is ASI, to help us talk to agencies about how to make procurement better. That is the goal. It is a space, as I mentioned just a minute ago in my comments, that's changing. The use of cooperative agreements, the commoditization of procurement, how these tools are developed and bought and sold, it's really a different space. And I think ultimately, if I were to describe the work of that council, who's going to meet again next week on the 28th of August, is to do 2 things, basically. One, to acknowledge that the business of agencies is at the center of what it is that we do, and the procurement part is an element to help them. The agencies are the center of the universe in terms of the services they provide. The enterprise procurement function is meant to get them there the right way and in a way that follows the law. And we want that to be efficient, and we want it to be thoughtful, as the board has made comments today, ethical and transparent. And so that is the goal. What I expect the meeting a week from today to do, and leading up to sort of this final roadmap product in probably late September, is to do just that. There are going to be quick wins, things that we, by the way, we've already done during the process, but some quick wins. But we really want to have this roadmap to lay out to the board, to the governor, and to the legislature about what this is going to look like, right? Whether that's an investment in systems, whether it's a look at processes, because what we want is for these things to proceed as efficiently as possible from that perspective. What I typically say is that ITS and DFA are now the 2 entities in Mississippi state government that have procurement overview and purview. And so the other side of that coin is that, you know, those agencies are independent agencies with a mission. So we answer questions for the legislature regularly. I think we'll meet later this afternoon to do that, about how procurements are conducted and how state dollars get spent. So I know in my travels that you know, there is nothing easy about public procurement. In the other 49 states, when you sit down and talk to those state chief information officers, it is something that we put a lot of time in. So I am so far very proud of the work, number one, that the team has done, and number 2, the creation of this advisory council and the collaboration with other agencies to sort of get to how we're going to get there together. So more to come on that, but wanted to give you that update. You recall House Bill 1491 directed ITS to develop a cloud center of excellence. That work has begun. It began with, first off, looking at our private cloud in the state data center. There are 34 agencies that leverage it, and just begin to look at what migration costs may be if entities, that are using the private cloud have interest in the public cloud near term. That work was done and thoughtfully delivered to those 34 agencies as they prepared budgets. So as you know, I only say good things about the budget, but it can be a challenge because your budget gets submitted and it's really at the beginning of an 18-month cycle, which more and more can feel like 3 eternities in terms of where you need to go. But we did get that data to those agencies. And I think the work that we'll do on the Cloud Center of Excellence in the fall months leading into the session will be work that we would want to talk with our legislative leaders about. What this means for agencies, how to do all of the things programmatically in conjunction with agencies, right? So there'll be assessment work that needs to happen, potential migration paths or costs. There may be modernization issues, right? That there may be applications that have been developed that need to be refactored or modernized before they can go to the cloud. So I think that is good work, and we're at the beginning of that, and we'll keep the board updated. As you know, Senate Bill 2267 directed ITS to work with a CIO council to think through, or the initial deliverable is a feasibility study to look at data exchange and how the state manages data. So we have reached out to get that initial council set up. It has to be done before October, and we're looking at sort of paths to conduct that feasibility study. That timeline, there was some latitude in that timeline, but for all these initiatives, the directives to the team at ITS is that we need to be able and capable during the legislative session to talk with leadership about where we are and what those impacts may be. So on all of these, the plan is to do that. There's a pivot here. So as you know, the governor signed Executive Order 1584 for artificial intelligence at the beginning of the year. That sort of is an executive directive for us to look at inventories across government and for us to look at guidelines and frameworks, which we're doing. We're going to be doing that not only to execute the governor's order, but in line with Senate Bill 2426, which is a regulatory task force that Senator Williams and Representative Ford are leading. That next meeting will be in September in Starkville, as I understand it. So you can sort of see the execution of the order and the data that is not only coming out of the state, but this regulatory group is going to look nationwide and maybe even globally, because the regulatory framework for AI is 100% a work in progress. And so that the two pieces are there. Really proud of that work in 2025 to move the state forward. Another strategic initiative of ours, the AI Innovation Hub, is up and live. The URL is available for agencies to submit use cases. And with that going live, that partnership is between AWS and the Mississippi Artificial Intelligence Network, or MAIN, which is a partnership between Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College and Mississippi State University. Now that it's live, we're seeking to sort of get the word out that this innovation hub is available. How can universities, students, state agencies sort of leverage this hub to innovate in the AI space? There is an event on the 24th of September. It's called the Magnolia State Technology Symposium, and the Innovation Hub will be presented there to a group at the Trademark. So getting the word out about that. You recall, and I've touched on, House Bill 1074, which took our e-government oversight committee and added 2 entities to it. It added the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks and Archives and History. The committee met this week, and so we welcomed the 2 new partners on that group. Pretty exciting on Tuesday, Jay White, our Chief Security Officer, represented us on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. The Mississippi Cyber and Technology Center opened. It is adjacent to Keesler Air Force Base. So the governor was there, President Keenum was there. Pretty big deal for the state. It was modeled after a very similar cyber center in the state of Georgia. So more to come on that. That was Tuesday of this week. So couple of announcements for the board. Of course, you know our Digital Government Summit, I believe it's our 14th annual, is going to be the 17th of September. So we're looking forward to that in just a few weeks. I can't really believe it's September, but it is. So we'll be meeting. The Center for Digital Government hosted a state and local government AI summit in Boston, and ITS was represented there. So one of the things is that we're very thoughtful about how we spend our travel dollars, but I think, you know, being part of that wider community is been vastly important to do that. That said, we have some folks in Nashville this week at the National Association of State Telecom Directors, and the National Association of State CIOs will get together in October, which I'll give you more info on. So all 50 states attend those. So those are just, you know, they're busy. You stay very busy at them. There's lots of meetings. There's lots of after-hours meetings. But the value that you get from talking with other 49 states can be amazing. The teams we send, the folks that are in Nashville this week, the folks that, you know, we sent to Boston to really sit down and hear from state and local governments on AI. They just come back with that knowledge that helps us, so very, very grateful for that. The one other comment I wanted to make, and be happy to take questions, is of legacy systems that exist in Mississippi government, you know, there is a legacy HR system called SPARS that runs on a mainframe right across the way. That legacy system is being refactored, and I wanted to be sure the board stayed abreast of that situation. So that system, which is an ADA-based natural system, is going through a refactor process, and when it is refactored, we're going to run it in Microsoft Azure Cloud. So the refactoring, I don't think will necessarily add functionality, which is what you typically expect, but we think that it'll add some life to that product. The board knows the Mississippi Management Reporting System, or MMRS, is it's a partnership of 3 agencies: the Department of Finance, the State Personnel Board, and ITS, with the Department of Finance being the lead agency for these enterprise systems, right? So HR, payroll, the ERP system for the state. So this particular system, which ITS has run and been the caretaker of for many, many years, is being refactored. And I wanted to, and will periodically give the board updates on the status of that system. Madam Chair, happy to take questions.
Thank you, Mr. Executive Director. Any questions or comments on that report? There's a lot going on. That was a lot.
No comments.
All right. Then I just acknowledge that report, correct? And then we move on to the verification of the quorum. All right. The next meeting is slated for Thursday, September the 18th, which is the day after the summit. And will that be virtual? The September meeting, do you recall?
I believe on the schedule it's virtual, but again, it is strictly the chair and board's preference. We can do whatever you guys would wish.
I'm planning to be here.
I plan to be available. I've got a mediation scheduled for that day, but I've told the people involved that they'll need to be flexible, because I will be here as needed.
Okay, well, we'll plan it for virtual and,
But the mediation is here in Jackson, so I can do it either way.
all right. if we find that several board members are coming in for the summit, we may consider having it in person. Mark, will you be available on the 18th of September?
I'll be available.
Virtually?
Yes. Yeah, perhaps the other one.
What was that last part?
Yes. I'm not, yeah, I'm flexible.
All right.
The real Mark or the virtual Mark will.
Yeah, one of us will show up.
Okay. All right, well, I think-
Batman or Bruce Wayne. I'm not sure which one.
All right, that establishes a quorum. I think that concludes the agenda, so I would move to adjourn.
Second that.
Thank you.
Approved.
Craig, a lot going on.